All right, we're gonna get started. Regular council meeting of what is today? Monday, December 21st.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we got a pretty long meeting tonight, so we're gonna get started. Leslie, go ahead and do roll call, please.
Mayor Laughlin,
Here.
Councilperson Sexton,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Goodweiler, absent, Stulman, absent.
Okay, so Nick, he knew he was gonna be gone. He emailed me some comments that I'll read them at appropriate times, if it's that appropriate. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Jesse Simon, are you up? You on?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. You're gonna give us a little report on the CDG.
Yeah, absolutely. So I sent a full report that's in your packet. Since you have a long agenda tonight, I won't talk through everything, but feel free to send me any questions anytime. I'd be happy to meet with anybody individually or take phone calls or whatever works. But wanting to make sure that we share that quarterly with the council as requested previously. But I know there was some interest in an update about the Christmas past changes that unfortunately we had to scale back at the almost last second, which was something we knew was a possibility this year. We were pleasantly surprised with the Santa Claus cruise. I'll backtrack a tiny bit. So we made the decision to drastically scale back about the week before Christmas passed, largely right before the emergency proclamation took that upspin to really lock down everything. Quite a few of our participating organizations that we partner with for the event had already contacted CDG and said that they would be backing out. Boy Scouts, all the churches, many of the traditional beloved aspects were starting to fall away with COVID concerns. So our board decided to pull the plug on a few other things that we were ultimately funding and roll over those efforts into a time when we can safely gather and ultimately get more bang for our buck. So that was kind of the thought process behind the changes that did happen. We had secured, we did still secure over $7,000 of sponsor support for the event this year. So we were able to recognize everybody with the few aspects that we're able to safely execute. So we did that at the Santa Claus cruise and with the story walk that's downtown all the month of December. And then we'll roll out those sponsors and give them another thank you when we bring the ice rink back sometime in 2021. Fingers crossed that everything becomes safe enough to gather in really large groups again. We didn't lose out on any money in that. I think that's important to note as well. We had paid a deposit that'll roll over to next year, and we're able to have our insurance policy roll over to when we actually execute that portion of the event. So that was a pleasant surprise in a wild year. The Santa Claus cruise was a big hit. We had over 500 cars come through, which, as we all probably know, there's probably not 500 young families in West Branch. So we definitely brought some out-of-towners to enjoy and explore our town. I'm not sure how many people really pulled over and shopped while they were here that day. I know when I have a car full of kids, especially after waiting an hour or so to see Santa, they were likely ready to go home. But every family that we talked to was positive and thankful and really profusely thanking us for doing something festive. So it was absolutely a morale booster. The business feedback that we received was overwhelmingly positive as well. Actually, I haven't heard a single negative comment from anybody but my own kids that were tired of waiting in the car. So I think it's a comparable wait to Christmas past when you normally have to stand in line and wait for your kids, but at least this time they could be buckled in safely listening to Christmas music in their warm cars. So even Santa said that he would prefer to do it this way than how we normally do it. So we might have to get creative in the coming years to kind of mesh what's always been done in what we tried out this year. But the businesses really reported positive feedback of seeing more people. They said on Sunday they had almost all out-of-towners. So I'm wondering if there was a correlation between people that saw things that they wanted to visit later and maybe came back the next day or the following week. We also, a couple other things that I wanted to mention on while I have your time. We also did a Downtown Dollars promotion the weekend before. So during Small Business Saturday, we offered, if you purchased $100 in downtown dollars, you received $110. So you got 10 extra dollars for free. And we've sold over $3,000 in downtown dollars just in this last month. So mostly on that Small Business Saturday during the promotion, but then also some trickles after that of people that were using them as good gifts and things like that. And I think that really can be pointed back to our efforts to promote that a lot more heavily than we've ever done. Those can be used until the end of March. We pushed the expiration date to the end of March for those, hoping that they really see a return on their investment during the pandemic time when our businesses likely struggle. So that was a positive, something that we, again, pivoted to put our eggs in that basket when we didn't have the downtown dollar promotion tied to the ice rink anymore. And then I also wanted to touch on, last time I was here, I didn't even get to say, probably our biggest news of the quarter is that we received the challenge grant, the Main Street Iowa Challenge grant this year. That is a highly competitive grant that we only have access to because of our accreditation as a Main Street Iowa community. We've received $75,000 in funding for the Opera Block building. This will be a whole facade update, electrical updates, a new roof, new windows and doors. So a huge improvement to our district. It is a 1-to-1 matching requirement for that grant. So it will ultimately be over $150,000 improvement to that building, which I think will really be a step in the right direction and a piece that we can leverage for future partnerships and future building improvements down the road. So I will keep you all in the loop as we receive updates from the owners there. Brooks have been great to work with throughout that process, and work has already began. So all of those improvements will need to be done in the next 2 years, but I think they are more on track to try to complete everything in about a year. Depending on, COVID, it might slow things down a bit, but we've got 2 years to use and do all of those improvements. So stay tuned for that too. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there is any.
None from me. That feedback? Thank you very much, Jesse. We really appreciate the work that you guys put in. I know it's not easy planning something and canceling and planning again. And we had a few extra meetings there. I know you guys did. So we really appreciate that. And the challenge grant, I know that's not easy. That's a lot of work. I think this is probably the 4th one that's been tried and finally got successful. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. We appreciate all your support too.
Anybody, anything?
Thanks again. It was nice to be able to have something on Christmas past. So congrats to being able to have something.
Yeah.
Next year's going to be better. Just keep knocking on wood and crossing my fingers.
All right, Jesse, thank you. Okay, item E will be public comment. Is anyone here to speak publicly to the council? We can listen to you, but we can't take action. Hearing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda, which is approval of a special meeting minutes of November 9th, special meeting minutes of December 2nd. These are council meeting minutes. And the regular council meeting minutes of December 7th. And approval for the Herb and Lou's liquor license renewal for Herb and Lou's, the Board of Commission appointments, which are, let me read those out. They're all reappointments. Lou Pisak and John Fuller to the Historic Preservation Committee. To the Animal Control is Amy Lynch. Reappointment is Shane Staker to the Park and Rec Commission. And the Library Board of Trustees is Karina Krall, Liz Osborne, and Jim Farmer. And the Planning and Zoning Commission member reappointments are Emily Walsh and Jim Hoffman. Also on the motion approval of the consent agenda would be setting the date of December 23rd for a consultation with the school and the county, I assume. Yep. And for a TIF, that's a TIF meeting. Can I just call it that? Setting the date of January 4th for the public hearing on the adoption of the amendment number 3 to the amended and restated urban renewal plan for the City of West Branch Urban Renewal Area. Finally, motion to approve the claims report, which is in our packet. Give me a motion, someone, and we can chat or not. Jerry? Jody seconds. Who's taking minutes? Is it Leslie? Okay, Jerry and Jody, motion and approve. And second, any comments?
I have one question.
Yes.
There was a Needham excavation relocate water main, $5,643. Where was that at?
Matt Goodale could tell us better than I can. I didn't bring the claims tonight, of course, when you asked.
That was at the south end of Lothan Ridge where it met up with Greenview. Not in Greenview, but in Peterson Valley. Our water main was only about 3 foot deep, even going back into Peterson Valley. And when they found it at that depth, they were going to tie onto it, and we decided not to tie onto it, but to have them lower it. So they lowered our section of it that wouldn't have even been touched by their project.
Okay.
Okay, sounds like a worthy expense.
One other thing
Go ahead.
is, are the guys that watch the water tower just now getting the bill in?
Just now getting paid.
Huh?
Yes,
Looks like we're just now paying them.
yes.
Okay.
They sent the bill in some email that we couldn't get it opened or whatever. I tried opening it. It didn't open. I had it on my computer and I completely forgot to get back to him. Then when I talked to him again, he sent it again. We still couldn't get it to open. He had to do something and get it to Gordon. Whatever software he was using wouldn't work for us.
Okay, thank you.
So, yep.
Okay, any other comments on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none. Leslie, will vote on the consent agenda, please.
Councilperson Sexton,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yeah.
Miller,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Okay. Up next, we have a resolution number 1962, promoting Sergeant John Hanna to the position of police chief for the city of West Branch and setting the annual salary for the same position. Give me a motion, someone.
So moved. Second.
Colton will second. I had a couple good interviews, had a good public hearing interview. Not an interview, but a public hearing. They got some good questions. That went well. The committee recommended unanimously to hire John. And that's my recommendation also. Any other comments?
That'd be my recommendation.
Good. Okay. Let's vote, Leslie. Police chief.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Stulman.
Yes.
All right, Nick can't vote, but he said yes. Unanimous. Okay, so at this time, we'll do a swearing in. You gonna leave these on?
I'll leave it on, just so we don't get in trouble.
You're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna repeat a few words. I'll say a few words and you can repeat it.
Okay.
I, John Hanna, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
I, John Hanna, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa. Okay.
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
And that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
To the best of my
Discharge.
ability.
To the best of my ability, discharge all duties as the police chief
To the best of my ability, discharge all duties as the police chief
for the city of West Branch as now or hereafter required by law.
for the city of West Branch as now or hereafter required by law.
You are the police chief.
Thank you, sir.
So Roger, I tend to do more of those than you. It seems like you always are not here when we do that. And what I
I'm gonna
learned
get it
is
right one of these days.
Get two of
I'm
them.
gonna get good at it.
you get two of them, so they got one and you got one, and it's a lot easier. It only took me swearing in about 6 cops to figure that out.
Why have you done so many? All right. Item 2 will be a second reading of an ordinance entitled amending Chapter 165 zoning regulations. Ordinance number 779. Give me a motion, someone. Jerry, Colton. This is inserting language that defines a front yard and side yard on, I think it's I2 district, which hasn't been there for years. So, any other comments? Okay, Leslie, we'll vote.
Councilperson Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Dean.
Yeah.
Resolution 1963, approving an agreement with the U.S. Geological Survey for the operation and maintenance of a stream flow gauging station located on the Wapsipinnanock Creek on the College Street Bridge for the amount of $8,640. Give me a motion, someone. Or, Tom,
I'll second.
second by Colton. Can you hear me, Leslie? Okay. Okay, so once again, this keeps coming up. I just have a feeling we need to continue it for a little while longer. Otherwise, I don't know. We need to continue it a little while longer, and that's my opinion. Anybody else?
Let's get the downstream widening done. We won't have to do this every year.
I agree. Yeah. We get,
Well, below where that monitor is now, will that help? Who would be able to get any data off of where the monitor is now with the downstream? Downstream is just to get the water out of here faster.
Well, it's all relevant.
it would show that it's successful or not successful. It should show that. Any other comments? I'm in favor of keeping it for, I was always against this for a long time, but I think it's been a good idea and it's been good for us. It does put us in line for maybe some grant money. It helps us get grant money. All right, Leslie, we're ready to vote.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Okay, resolution 1964. Adopting goals and objectives for the city for the next fiscal year, 21-22. Give me a motion, someone. Jerry. Second. Come on, Tom.
I'll second it.
Okay, so this is, these are not capital improvement projects, they are, wait, or are they? No, these are just projects we want to get done, but they are not the big ticket projects, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Our small P projects, if you will, they came of our goal setting. So you can see the list. I think we kind of saw them, but now it's all nice, cleared up. This is going to be a starting point for where our budget will start. We'll try and work with this and try to fund as many of these projects as we can as we go into the next fiscal year. So this then becomes after we find the funding for them, and we'll come back to council, and it'll be part of the city administrator's recommended adopted budget, or was soon to be adopted after you guys look through it. But and then if there's things that we don't get to, we don't fund, if you remember last year, they'll be in red, and we'll talk about how to get to those in a future date. And hopefully we get more green than red of basically having funding strategies for those projects. So we'll have, so this would be for the small P projects. These are the ones that we look to get to in the next 12 months. And then you'll see a resolution about the big P projects, the capital improvements. And that's the ones where we look at a 5-year outlook, and we try to have a implementation plan that addresses those projects within that period of time.
Okay, so I have one comment on how we come up with these numbers. I think in the future we should have only enough stickers that you can put one sticker on one project. Because there's some stuff on here that have got a lot of numbers on them, and it could have been because somebody put 4 or 5 numbers on one item. I think that's kind of deceiving when we get one person or 2 people that are putting all their stickers on a couple spots, and all of a sudden now they're on the list, and then when it comes to the time when we want to vote on this stuff, it gets turned down because the whole council didn't really approve for all this.
So yeah, that's a good point, and it's kind of a weigh your options on it, because if someone does do that, they sacrifice all the other projects. So it wounds up kind of being a bit of a wash. And then I go back and I can, by counting, determine if it's a natural flow, because I know there's one that looked really odd, particularly the 5 police officers. But then it also is the reason why we have reds. So to negate if there's someone doubling down all theirs on one thing, then you would think if it has too much.
Well, I didn't put any yellows on the 5th full-time police officer, and there's 9 on there. So that means an average of 2 per council member.
I know I didn't put it on.
So the way we did it
And
before was each councilman had a color.
That's what I would
So
say.
you have to have 3 colors for it to be considered a goal, because if you don't have 3 colors, then you don't have support of the council.
Sounds like a good
That
idea.
always
Yeah.
worked real well.
That's not bad. I was thinking of having initials. I always do that with the mayor, so I can track. Because the mayor doesn't get a vote,
Right.
but it's good to know what he supports. So
And his always had an M on them.
right.
So it didn't count as a color because, but
Yeah, but that was for that reason. So
he
Yeah.
still gets a say,
yep.
All right, good comment.
So yep, good comments.
And while we're on this, the last meeting was the first time I've seen our goals for 2020 since we did them. I'd like a monthly update on how we're progressing on our goals.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
Wouldn't have to be a whole lot, just something real quick.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, whether something's in the bid phase or development phase or just no phase at all, we might like to hear where it's at, I guess. Okay. I don't think anybody has any objection to this particular list, however.
I just kind of looked at it and go, I think if we did something different, we would not have as much on this list as.
I don't remember putting anything on soil mitigation either.
So,
Yeah, I may have loaded that up like at the end there too. It's like I have extra stickers somewhere.
That's just an expense we gotta do. We're either gonna do it this year, or we're gonna do it next year. I mean, you know.
Okay.
And by the way, I have photographs. If anybody wants to see the actual photos, I can. email
No,
those.
this, we don't need photo if we got this.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we got a motion and a second to approve these projects for the next fiscal year. I guess a couple of them could be included in this coming fiscal year, such as the parking lot extension at the Covey Park. We ready to vote? Okay, Leslie?
Mayor, can you confirm who gave the second? I couldn't tell if that was Miller or Dean.
Miller?
All right. Councilperson Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Okay, now for the bigger ticket item, that would be the resolution 1965, adopting priorities for the city's capital improvement plan. So give me a motion, someone.
So moved.
Second.
Tom and Miller. All right, these are big ticket items. We're going to try to get funded for the next fiscal year. I think we've got a couple of them all figured out already. And you're going to work on the water main stuff, hopefully Redmond, in the coming months. Any other discussion?
What, we're talking the water main.
East side water main.
East side.
East side water main, yeah.
And bring another urban renewal amendment back, and get some costs associated with
Yeah,
this
we need a,
to, we just need to get the school one done so we can approve it next meeting,
that's tonight.
2080. But once we get some costs on these projects, I'll bring another amendment back and put those specifically in there.
It can't really be a project until we get some costs, is that?
Yeah, you gotta have some type of cost to show what your debt's gonna be. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, obviously, but somewhere in the ballpark.
Okay, any other thoughts, anyone? Okay, Leslie? I don't know why I'm yelling at us.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Okay, item 6 is resolution 1966, approving a partial acquisition and easement agreements with Runnels Farms related to the I-80 widening project. I thought there was a map on this, but give me a motion, someone. Jerry and Colton. What can I say? We're being forced to relocate this water line. As a result, is it actual, I think we're reimbursing them for this land.
So it's
$7,000.
$7,300 for the easement, and then $3,760 for the crop damage, which is a formula that Dave, the engineers, have come up with. So it'd be $10,000, and then we're gonna submit that to the DOT for reimbursement.
They will pay us, correct, I believe?
Well, we'll see.
How soon have they reimbursed?
Is this the normal procedure? We do the easement and everything prior to getting paid from the state?
The state always is usually at least 30 days behind if I.
Well, I did talk to the engineer and he said they would work with us in paying within 30 days. So I think we need to go with it on them, take them for their word. I didn't know if we waited till we got paid and then have this resolution and an agreement set up then, or is this the procedure? We do this first and then get paid?
Yeah, we'll see how fast they get the signatures back. It's not like they're next door.
Is that you doing the acquisition? Or is it,
I did.
Schekinger?
I did the easement and everything. Dave had the plats, which are on here. And I did the 2 agreements that were on here. And Dave did the, figured out the crop loss and he dealt with the farm management, Kurt's farm management, who manages the farms for them. So kind of Dave did a lot of the work and then I did the agreement work.
So I think we'll get reimbursed with Dave for Dave's time too, I think on that.
Good.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve. Let's vote, Leslie. Please.
Councilperson Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Stulman.
Yes.
Right. Okay, Cedar's Edge. We have resolution 1967. A resolution accepting public improvements constructed in Cedar's Edge Part 1. Give me a motion, someone.
So move.
Tom and
Second.
Colton will second. Need to read something. There's just one little thing that will get done, I'm sure. The sidewalk along Ember Lane by the parking lot for Little Lights has not been installed, but it's kind of hard right now.
She knows that.
And that's part of a site plan requirement. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, it's on her to-do list next spring.
Yeah. That's on the north side of the street, I think. Anything else? All right, let's go ahead and vote, Leslie.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Sexton.
Abstain.
Yeah, he can. Okay, awesome. So we gotta start plowing that street. Item 8, resolution 1968, revising legal descriptions for resolution 1740 to clarify the boundaries of the urban renewal areas. Is this Meadows?
This is the Meadows 4B. We already did this for 4A. What they wanted was, they wanted the platted, instead of meets and bounds for the whole area, they wanted platted subdivision. So we did 4A earlier in September maybe, and 4B got recorded in November, so we're coming back with this at their request.
Yep. Okay.
Just our auditor and our records are all the same.
Did I get a motion?
So moved.
Colton, Tom, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, Leslie.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Stulman.
Okay, we have some discussion items next. First off will be review of the draft, the 28E agreement with Johnson County and the preliminary Main Street roundabout project at Cedar Johnson Road. So what do I have to say about this? Their initial estimate was $320-some thousand, and then there's going to be some engineering fees, design engineering fees, and construction administration engineering fees, which we are on the hook for roughly 40% of that. Correct? 37%? It looks like the total is going to be around $400,000.
That we are responsible for.
Yes. And they have drawn up at this 2080 agreement to,
Whoa, wait a minute.
with a
Yeah.
3-year payback.
Yeah,
Whoa. We're on the hook for 400,000?
yeah.
We're paying for part of the.
That's about what I can tell. Yeah.
That's not what they first brought to us. I thought they're paying half of it.
No.
Oh, they're paying a bigger share than we were.
They're paying 63% of the whole project's about 900,000, I think. Whole
Or what,
project.
from finish local road or the?
No, just the round, this is
$1
just the
million
roundabout.
for that intersection?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
They're about 63%. I saw that somewhere in here. And we're about 37% of that. So about $400,000.
I'm not in favor of the roundabout. It's way too expensive. We can't afford that. There's no way. I don't know how you think you can. If you guys can show me where you can come up with $400,000, not take it from anything else.
Right now, the agreement will be that Johnson County will pay for it, and we will repay them over the next 4 years, $100,000 a year.
What was the cheapest straight on version? How much was that? Anybody remember?
147,000.
You got to remember, those numbers that they give us do not include engineering design fees, and they do not include engineering. I'm starting to learn this here. They do not include engineering, construction, administration fees. So,
In other words, Johnson County's not paying for all the engineering to do this whole project. They're putting some of that burden on us.
yeah.
So no matter which one we would end up choosing, no matter what,
We're gonna pay that
we're
engineer.
gonna pay some engineering fees.
Albeit it would be less with a less complicated plan.
Do we have the specs as to where, we were looking, they were gonna go 100 feet down Cedar Johnson to the south.
Roger, can I say a few words here?
Yeah, go ahead, Dave. I knew you were there somewhere.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I had quite a bit of discussion with Neil Shoddick, who is the Johnson County engineer that's working on this project. He's working with some numbers that are probably not completely accurate as far as the total construction cost. They have gone further north and south than what we really need them to with this particular project. The biggest component is going south on that, what I would call a level B service road that goes down to the softball field at the high school, as well as a radio tower. We don't need to do much beyond the roundabout to do paving south of there, since it just goes to nowhere. That's going to reduce our cost. And we also have some things on the north side that we could shorten up, as well as a little bit on the east, that we don't have to go quite as far. If we left it a rural section similar to what the county is doing on their side, rather than doing curb and gutter, we could save some cost. So there are a bunch of things here that we can do to get this back down to closer to what we looked at with that $300 and some thousand estimate they gave us previously. That number obviously was for the project without the engineering, as you mentioned, but I think we can get it closer to the project cost we previously approved by making some modifications that would still function the way we want it to.
Okay.
This is really on here for discussion, just to make sure that we give the county some direction. They didn't put the engineering fees on previously, and I thought it was important to point that out to council before we did anything else on the project.
Do we have any right-of-way costs, Dave?
It depends on what we need to do for the right of way. If we have to purchase on the north side, there will be on the county side. They're taking care of that. On the east side of Johnson Cedar Road, that would be the cities. And we've had some discussion with KLM. We would just need to reach an agreement with them for the additional right of way. And I believe there was some discussion on the approval of that part 3, I think it might have been, of Meadows, that we may need to do that. So that'll have to be discussed with KLM, see what the cost would be.
Barter. Okay, so what I'm hearing, we could shorten up the concrete that needs to be done pretty much on 3 sides that affects West Branch. That would sharpen the pencil a little bit, get the cost down. Closer to that 327 So can we tell them that, Dave, tell Neil that that's what we're looking for?
Yes, and in the email correspondence that I have with Neil, he's acknowledged that they're going to have to do that, and that we've already pointed out some of these potential cost-saving measures. If you go back and look at the history of the discussion, we've taken just the roundabout portion and done a 50-50 cost share. There's about 600 feet of paving to the west that the county is going to lump into this project so that they can stop their federally funded project on Herbert Hoover a little bit short and get that out to bid. We'll do the transition with this project, but the county is completely responsible for that. One of the other big things that we were able to get removed from this agreement was they were looking at if we were to annex west of Cedar Johnson, since they were going to pay for part of that intersection, they were looking for a sliding scale of what we would have to reimburse. I told them that we were picking up with our future Cedar Johnson Road project, the improvements to that, and they're basically off the hook. So I didn't think that was appropriate at all. They did take that condition out, and we're still working with them on doing a few other things with this 2080 for maintenance that would transfer the jurisdiction of Cedar Johnson. So we had a cleaner project when we get to that point, as well as define what has to be done on that road to the south. So there's a few things that will be included in this agreement to kind of clean some things up from the past. But I'd say we're sitting at a pretty good point where if we could agree that the east half from Cedar Johnson center line to the east, whatever we do with that for final design, the city would be responsible for. And anything to the west, the county would be responsible for.
All right, thank you, Dave. Let me read Nick's comment. He said, additional costs are not excessive. Still think the roundabout is the best option. But if council feels cost is excessive, I have no issue going with one of the straight run options. That's Nick's comment. I still think we should pursue this option. If we can cut 70 grand out, 50 to 70 grand, you guys, you know, it is tiffable. We can tiff it.
I'm still in favor of the roundabout for the reasons I stated before. One being that this is the simplest way. I mean, it might be a little more expensive, but the simplest way to slow the traffic coming into town.
Go ahead, Cole.
So, I mean, I guess it still has to, the question has to be answered. TIF's not the answer. There's more to the answer than just say TIF. If we've got 4 years to pay off this money, is there enough, can we TIF it for 4 years and be done with it? Or are we going to have to borrow money and then use TIF payments to pay that off?
100 grand.
I mean, those are the questions that need to be answered. I mean, before we all sit here and say this is what we want, how are we going to pay for it? You don't just say TIF. I mean, there's.
Gotta write the check first, don't you?
Kevin?
So just like the school agreement that was on this urban renewal amendment, we're paying $50,000 to be $12,500 a year for 4 years. So this would be scheduled the same way, whatever cost you ended up with. We'd have an agreement with the county and we just pay that. You could designate.
I get all that.
But you don't have to, I mean, you can do that, and if you get 2 years down the road and you figure something else out you want to do, you don't have to use TIF.
Well, I guess the question you're really getting at is, do we have enough fund balance strength to take the $100,000?
I mean, do we have enough TIF asking where we can ask for $100,000 TIF for one project for 4 consecutive years?
That part's the easy part. That the TIF capacity we have.
Okay.
The question, I think the tough one is to make sure that we have enough fund balance availability so that we don't have to take a loan, because one of the things that Johnson County provides us is not paying interest. We're paying basically a 0 interest repayment. If we have to take a loan, that kind of short changes that benefit, but that could be a possibility depending on cash flow. Which I think $100,000 just based on what general fund handled with some of our water projects in the past, because we had a loan to our water enterprise, much more than $100,000 a year. I think it should be okay, but it does start to get snug.
Okay, so the question is we have the capability to make these 4 payments with TIF? Yes. All right. And my other question would be is we have the whole page of CIP stuff that we kept saying, how are we going to pay for this? TIF. How are we going to pay for this? TIF. How are we going to pay for this? TIF. How does that affect us, the ability to be able to do those things?
That's a conversation I'm going to have with Maggie. Again, it shows that we have the capacity. What that ramification will be on our general fund, we still have to kind of study and make sure that that's something that we want to do. So that's going to be the task of trying to put meat on the bones of our CIP in the next coming weeks.
Okay.
And we're not really looking at all these CIP projects. We're not looking at them as a full TIF payment. I mean, we're looking at using TIF as part of the payment to pay for some of those projects. It's not all just TIF. My understanding. Is that right?
That's right. And it's not happening in any 1 year either.
Right.
Okay, so I guess I'm kind of hearing from Redmond that we may have the capacity for the upfront costs. I think I read in here somewhere that the engineer fees will probably have to be paid sooner, pretty much up front, or pretty soon. And then on final acceptance of the project, we will get a bill from the county for some portion of it, probably the engineering fees, or sooner. So that's, I don't know, that could be 60 grand maybe.
So my question is, they're giving us a engineer's estimate of what the cost is. It goes out for bid. Say it ends up being 30% higher cost when they get the bid back. We're already locked in now.
I don't like that. I don't like the idea that they're putting their bids out in April, May. In the optimum time in the winter when these guys are looking for work.
Yeah, it's the 1st of May, the bids go out.
They're not gonna start to the middle of June.
Everybody wants to do county work though, so I mean.
Yeah, how to work this year on this one. They're 6 weeks late opening it.
No, they weren't 6 weeks. On Hoover Highway?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, they were
6 weeks?
supposed to open November 1st, I think.
I thought it was the end of November.
The weather was too nice, so.
Fishing, gotta go fishing.
Didn't have enough rain.
Okay, I guess you got a feel for where we're at. I don't know what to tell Neil or the Johnson County engineer. I guess Dave's kind of listening to our comments here. We're a little bit nervous about the cost. However, I think it can be pared down.
I'd like to see the pared down cost.
I can work with Neil to get that pared down, Roger, with the changes that we had suggested. And then I think we also want to put in there that if bids come in above a certain amount, we have the right to reject bids. So we would want to establish that upper threshold as part of the agreement. And that's something I've done with Johnson County on other city-county agreements in the past. So that's certainly something they would be willing to do.
Half
If it's
around
lower,
about.
then we'll get the benefit of
Right.
that too.
Say that again.
If it's lower, we'll get the benefit of that too.
Definitely. Okay,
So why is it that we're so adamant that we have to have a roundabout?
slow the traffic down coming over that hill.
There also needs to be, in my mind, as you're coming from the west, a turn lane to turn north on Hoover Highway. Otherwise, you got two lanes and people are slowing down. The other scenario we talked about was a turn lane on Hoover Highway. Do you remember that?
The cost was about $10,000.
And that was pretty comparable to the cost of this roundabout. Maybe even more. I can't remember.
It was about $10,000.
Yeah. So I think there needs to be a turn lane just to protect the left turners as you're coming from Iowa City. With increased traffic on Cedar Johnson in the next 100 years. Okay, maybe we beat this to death. We'll relay our comments to the Johnson County engineer. We're going to move on. All right, discussion of whether to consider a not to exceed a $20,000 proposal for a potential $700,000 forgivable loan application to be used. It's in conjunction with the water quality and stormwater projects in conjunction with the $7 million sewer plant dollars. I'm going to have Dave explain the rest of it. So go ahead, Dave.
Okay. So we are on the intended use plan list with the Department of Natural Resources to be able to fund the wastewater plant. That's a low interest loan. That's roughly 2%. As the DNR has put together a program to take sewer funded projects on the IUP and allow them to take 10% of that value that's on the IUP. So $7 million is what we're on there for. 10% would be 700,000. We can use that money towards a water quality project, which is green infrastructure of some sort. And we've looked at several areas in city limits in the past. This could also be used in conjunction with our creek widening project to do some stream meandering, maybe some of the vegetation that takes place, possibly some of the grading. So we could defray some of the cost on the stream widening project with this money. We could also look at the project along Hoover Creek between Main Street and Covey Park that we could implement the project that we looked at quite a few years ago, and have a few projects out in Meadows as well that we've identified as possible locations where we could enhance that with some green infrastructure. So the way that they work the program is that they take that base loan of $7 million for the wastewater plant at 2% and back that down to a 1% interest. And then you borrow again for the other project that we're looking to do for the 700,000. You combine the two loans and it turns out as the same payment as you would have had for the wastewater plant at 2%. So you get two projects for the price of one. It's essentially a grant or a forgivable loan, but you're taking out two loans and they're playing with the interest rate. They're doing this to promote green infrastructure. So we have an opportunity, and we talked with DNR at our project planning meeting that was required in order to be eligible for the program. And we asked about the success rate for applicants. And a few years ago, it was a little bit lower, maybe about 40% of the people that applied would get funded. And then they put a cap on projects of $1 million. Ours is only 700,000 eligibility, so the cap doesn't really affect us, but it keeps the larger projects from taking all of the money. In the last 2 years, anybody that has successfully filled out the applications and had an eligible application has received funding. So this is about as good of a chance as we're going to get, since we don't really qualify for any grants for this. This is pretty close to a grant, but we have a watershed assessment that we have to do up front to even put in the application. Any work that's done before we're deemed eligible is not eligible for reimbursement. So this watershed assessment that we have to do is not eligible for reimbursement as part of this. that we've partnered with Impact 7G since they have experience with this stream toolbox that we have to do in order to design this. And they have indicated they would like to be paid for the watershed assessment up front. They're willing to participate to some degree because they think it's a pretty good success rate on the project. So they're not willing to do all the work up front for free, but they would like to have some reimbursement for their time to do the watershed assessment. That's where this $20,000 amount is coming from. So we spend this amount to put together the application, and if we receive funding for $700,000, we're essentially getting $680,000 for free. So I wanted to present that to council. I think we've got a few projects that this would benefit, and if you're in favor of it, we could move forward with the application. We have to have something put together possibly in March if we want to try to get everything worked out. We might have to hold off until the September deadline. Either one would be acceptable timeframes. We can't really start anything on this until we receive bids for the wastewater plant. So it works out timing wise, but we just need to get started sooner than later so we can do the planning and not miss the second deadline.
Now, Dave, Judy at that meeting said 14 to 20,000 for their fee.
Right.
Do the watershed assessment. Would any of none of that's been done at the Wapsie Creek widening at all, has it? None of any of that work's been done?
So this would be looking at impairments in the watershed, anything that drains into Hoover Creek or into the Wapsianock, looking at upstream, looking at water quality. They would also be looking at the condition of the channel, a number of things like that. And they have to put together a report based on the format that DNR wants to see. So that's what takes the long time, amount of effort, and drives the cost for that watershed assessment.
Is any of that assessment required regardless in any of the design work that you're eventually going to be doing for that Wapsie Creek widening project? No?
No, it's not. So what we're looking at is hydraulics, and they're looking at water quality.
Right. Now, he did say that even though that's a flood mitigation project, I think Lee said it was qualifiable for this grant, even though it's a water quality grant.
Certain elements of this would enhance water quality, and those would be eligible. So some of the things we have to do anyhow as part of the flood mitigation project, we could get some of those to qualify for the sponsored project. So we would be reducing the costs that we're paying out of pocket on that project.
And they also reiterated that the more we can get on a list of potential projects, it increases our chances of success. And from there, we can pick and choose exactly which projects to do, whether, at one point we had the Hoover Creek, which was way too much money for us, and we killed that pretty quickly. Colton remembers that.
Which one?
That could be
One from Maine to.
behind the soccer field. We could literally get that creek cleaned up with this money. I mean, it's you got to spend money to get free money, I guess.
So Dave, I have a few questions, Jerry. How many, do you have any idea what our competition for this grant would be citywide? I mean, other cities? And does this only apply to cities that have a wastewater, a sewer plant that needs to be upgraded? Are they the only ones eligible for this grant?
So the base project has to be a clean water SRF funded project, and clean water is different than drinking water. Drinking water is the well water and what goes through the water distribution system. Clean water is anything that is related to sanitary sewer. So that would be your treatment, your collection system, pump stations, anything like that would be eligible for a clean water SRF loan. So we could go and take a look at projects that have recently been put on the intended use plan and see if there are projects that are in that $4 million to $10 million range. Those are the ones that are generally going to be applying for the sponsored project, or the $4 million and up. And that would give us some indication of who the potential competition would be. But as I indicated in talking with Lee Wagner, who runs the program for SRF, he's indicated that the last couple of years he's seen a reduction in the applications, and pretty much anybody that can fill out the application successfully and have a watershed assessment done has been awarded funds for their project.
We had $2.7 million for the same project program.
And that was before they put that $1 million cap in place, and that was one of the projects that triggered that.
I think he said when it was 36 million, 3 years ago, maybe, they had 34 applicants and they awarded 90% of those. Over 30 of those applicants got some funding. I thought it was pretty amazing of what the success rate was.
So if our odds are 90% that we're gonna get something out of it, I think this is a no-brainer, isn't it?
Seems like it to me.
So how long of a period of time do we have to do a project with this extra money?
So we have to have the money spent within a certain period after we close on the SRF loan. As we start to make payments on our SRF loan, whatever is left, we only get 10% of that as far as the value. So if we wait a couple of years and we make principal payments on the wastewater plant loan, we're going to decrease how much we can get from this sponsored project loan.
So we're looking at 2 to 3 years when we close on this loan that we're looking at?
That's correct. I would say that we're probably looking at, if we started construction in 2022 on the wastewater plant and have it completed by 2023, that's about when we would want to have that sponsored project pretty close to wrapping up as well.
Dave, would they loan us the money before we spend it, or do we have to have the ability to pay for the project and then borrow the money?
So the way this works is that we take out a separate SRF loan for the sponsored project, and then they reduce the interest on the first one. So you're paying back 2 loans, and it's a reimbursement loan. So just like with past SRF loans, once you send out an invoice or get a pay estimate that's sent to the contractor and back, you can submit that for reimbursement when you send the check in. So it's going to be about like what you experience with a DOT, where you might have 30 days you have to carry that payment.
Thank you.
Redmond, I have a question for you. The downstream widening, are we able to pay for that? I mean, do we have the funds to pay for that?
We are close. We have had good numbers coming back from our local option sales tax.
We can't use local option sales tax.
I learned something.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Okay.
I thought we had received some extra local option sales tax, but somehow Matt Goodale received a letter from the the Iowa Department of Revenue that said they made a mistake. So Matt's going to give me a copy of the letter. I haven't seen it yet, but I thought we could use, that was about $30-some thousand. But
we can't use.
We haven't spent it, but it's in our bank account and they're going to deduct it from us eventually.
We can't use the local option for that, for most of the Down Creek widening anyway. Only the Covey Park portion of it.
Veronica Park.
Veronica,
Yeah, Veronica Park.
which is probably 25% of the whole project. Maybe more, I don't know. The rest has to come from general fund or
Stormwater. I think.
Stormwater.
Yeah, stormwater.
Right.
And remaining coming park funds.
But still, we're pretty close.
We are. That's a little snafu, so we'll have to do some recalculations, but But you also have to keep in mind that those dollars grow month to month. And so, not that we want to take a long time, but it does allow us to get some months underneath our belt to help us get a little closer to hitting the goal mark.
Right. Another year and a half or so.
Okay, so where I'm kind of going with this whole thing is that if we're able to get $600,000-$700,000 to improve our watershed, and we can fund that down there, why wouldn't we try to do upstream watershed, a retention pond or something that's really going to help us in a bigger bang? If we can pay for the downstream out of what we've already tried to allow, then we could take that money and put it up to something that would really help our community, instead of trying to clean up a creek that's going to cost us $300,000 to clean up.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
What would be our bigger bang for our buck? Would doing some upstream retention, would that be a bigger bang for our watershed than to try to clean up the creek?
Well, the USGS study shows that downstream widenings are top priority.
If we can fund that.
We're just a long ways away from designing an upstream
What about,
project.
you said the next thing though was the Main Street Bridge.
This would not, a Main Street Bridge, I'm sure would not. This money would not go for a bridge.
So Roger, it's important to point out that this is not a flood protection program. This is a water quality program. So while they wouldn't pay for the detention basin, if we were to do some sort of a infiltration component or wetland component inside of the basin, they would pay for the difference between doing the basin and the basin with the wetland component or whatever the water quality element is. So we would still be responsible for funding the base project on there for flood protection, which would be the detention basin. But what we do to make that water quality enhancement feature is what they would fund. So that's where we look at, trying to get these plantings along the creek bank, doing different things to do some sort of infiltration-based practices, things like that are what they're looking for.
Yeah, it just gets kind of convoluted, mixing projects with flood control and
Right.
water quality.
So we could certainly have projects identified as part of this watershed assessment and come back to council and prioritize. But I think the important thing is to make a decision on whether we want to pursue this $700,000 potential forgivable loan.
I'm saying, yeah, we should pursue it.
Seems like a pretty good bang for our buck.
Any consensus on? Okay. Okay, I'm getting some head nods of consensus on a yes. So next time, let's get the next meeting, Redmond, let's get a resolution. And we can discuss it one more time at that point, okay?
How long does it take to have this grant? How long does it take them to make the grant?
Who's writing it?
The writers will be 7G. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, and again, it's not exactly a grant. It's a loan that we take with SRF, and then they do their fuzzy math, and we end up with the same payment as we would have just doing the wastewater plant. But Impact 7G will assist us with writing the watershed assessment, and then we'll have to put together the application, which has quite a bit of information. IDALS will assist us in reviewing and tweaking that application to get it the way they want it, so it meets the stormwater management manual requirements. And we will submit that to DNR for review and hopefully approval.
I don't know, this has just got that feeling, like I tell my wife all the time, if there's something that's $1,000 and it's $250 off, so she says, I bought it because it was on sale. I saved $250. No, you didn't. You spent $750. I mean, if we had a project that we knew we were gonna do, we're gonna do this project, you know,
Well, we do. I mean, this is some downstream widening stuff.
right,
This will help pay.
but
for
not
some of
$700,000 worth of
it.
it.
No,
I mean, so now we're in a position where we gotta go run around and try to find some projects to do so we can spend money.
do we have to do the projects, Dave? Are we locked into a project?
No, and Kevin, you can probably talk a little bit to what they did in Coralville. They had, I think, 4 or 5 different projects they'd identified. They might have done a couple so far, and depending upon what was left, they determined whether they wanted to proceed with the last couple. It isn't mandatory, but if you want to take advantage of the program, you would get reimbursed up to whatever limit they have established based off your base loan.
Yeah, we had numerous projects, and so we put a green roof on the arena, and then what the money we had left, we picked and choose the projects that were approved. So that was how we ended up with the project. So we had more that were approved than we could fund out of it.
Yeah, so that's the advantage of picking 5 or 6 projects in West Branch. That you don't have to do them. We can pick and choose at a later date what gets done. Maybe at no cost.
But the point is that we're gonna spend the $7 million on the plant, no matter what.
Right.
And if we don't do it, if we don't do this, we're not gonna it's gonna cost us the same to do some small projects with this as it is to just do the plant. The only thing it's gonna cost us is the upfront cost to get $600,000 worth of projects that we'd have to fund some other way if we wanted to do them.
The grant will pay for design fees also, but not for this application fee. It won't pay for that.
The way I explain it is the state is the bank in this situation. We're getting the loan from the state at a 2% interest rate. They have decided to create a program to give some of the interest back to us in the form of this project. So we're going to be paying 2% for one project, or we're going to be paying 2% for that project and this other project that we identified. We're still going to pay the 2%. The only thing is that we got a $20,000 seed application fee, which you've seen in some banks that they make you pay pretty substantially when you're trying to get like a line of credit or something like that. So they're the banker in here, and they got a program to give some of interest rate back to the vendee. That helps.
Okay, so let's move ahead and get a proposal, a resolution next time, Redmond. And we'll talk about it one more time and talk about it. Okay, we ready to move on? Thank you, Dave.
Welcome.
All right, let's talk baseball fields. So we have a choice. Melissa got some numbers together from, I believe it was Barnhart, to extend the baselines for Cubby Park fields, roughly $14,000 per field. I know we're talking a lot about money tonight. So we got a choice. We need to make a decision tonight. What we just need to get a feel for what we're looking for, or 1, 2, or 3 fields.
Yeah. This is still on, but yeah, so I think fields were discussed recently pretty substantially. So we do have funds available for the fields. They weren't budgeted within this budget. Doesn't mean that the funds aren't available. Well, whatever we decide to do, we can move forward in the spring. We've already kind of started on the parking lot. So they will coincide with each other. The question is, what scope do we want to be looking at? 1 field, 2 fields, or 3? Frankly, to try and find the $20,000 for what we just talked about, is kind of kind of predicated on where we are on 1, 2, or 3 fields.
I thought Melissa said she had enough money to do the 3 fields.
She can do the 3 fields.
Well, I thought she said she had the money.
Well, I think she was saying there were some things that were still out there that she was waiting to get final.
Some of that depends on how this parking lot pans out. If the Public Works bills the park director labor,
There's that question.
that would,
But I think that the bigger question was the Waxy Creek widening, and I don't believe we're going to go after any more funds out of that pool. But then we still got this $20,000 question, which we still have to find money from, and that was if we wind up doing 2 fields, then that's that job is easy to find $20,000.
Melissa, what's your comments on this?
Okay, I would like to approach it a little differently. I'm kind of a money-based gal. I would like to, we have the money right now for 3 fields. There's a lot out there in regards to the finalization of the parking lot, how much that actually comes in at, whether we do the $20,000 for the grant. I would like to go for all 3 fields. However, reevaluate in April or May. And if we don't have the monies there because we've spent it on the grant, which is fine, then go down, bring it back to council and do the 20,000, do the 2 fields. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to have a functional ball field. I say go for all 3 if we can do it.
Well, I mean, I think that, there's the money out there right now, but we never know what's going to happen in the next 3 months. And I've talked with Barnhart and I've talked with our irrigation company and have it kind of all lined up, ready to go for July of 2021 anyway. So we have time there. And if the money's there, great, then we can go ahead and go for it. But if it's not there in April or May, then maybe we downsize back to 2 fields.
We're talking about a project in July and December that we may or may not be able to.
Well, in July, I mean, we'll definitely have the money, even if we spend $20,000 on the forgivable loan or grant, we would have definitely the money for 2 fields.
You can't do it in March before fall season starts?
Well, when I spoke with, first of all, the irrigation company, and I went with the company that did our lines just because that's where our warranty is with. I didn't want to necessarily shop around for that. Their person is laid off. I was hoping that we could get that done this winter, but we couldn't. And then when I spoke with Bruce, he and I both kind of agreed, you never know what the spring is going to be like. So it would be better to wait until July. So.
Is that going to cut our playing on these fields?
Well, it won't impact the what we currently have scheduled, and the boys will still be able to practice and play there. They won't be able to. The 12s and 11s and 12s won't be able to host tournaments there, but they can technically, if they want to practice. I mean, last year we had Richie who practiced in those fields, and he just, I mean, even with up to high school age kids, you know, he made it work for that. So I think it's better to wait till July, because otherwise we have the potential of taking out this season or a big portion of the season for all the children.
we have to do only 2 fields. I would do number 1 and 2 and not do number 3.
Right. I mean, the regulations for 11 and 12 are recommended 275-foot center field. However, that's a recommendation. And when state baseball called me, the youth state baseball called me for fields this summer to see if they could reserve our fields for tournaments. They weren't concerned with the field depth. They were concerned with the field baseline. So I think for hosting tournaments for our smaller teams and our local teams,
all 3 fields will work fine. But if you get a competitive team out of Des Moines or someplace similar, then only the larger fields work.
Okay, what do we need to know tonight? Are we looking for a? There's money there. I don't think we need to do anything tonight. I guess what they might have been looking for is a definite yes, all 3 fields, or definite no, probably. I think we're kind of wishy-washy right now.
I guess Melissa's saying, if you want all 3, we'll go with all 3. If money becomes an issue, we'll come back. I guess that's what you're saying. But
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah. Nick made pretty much the same comment. He'd love to see 3 of them done. But if it doesn't happen, just do number 1 and 2.
But it sounds like we'll rule out 1 field only. It's at least 2 fields and try to go for 3.
All right, we're gonna move on.
We're within these 10 feet. Is that what we're doing?
15.
60 to 70? I thought it was more than that.
We're at 60. We're going 70, right?
65 to 70. So we need to remove 5 feet of the sod to make that accommodation.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking.
I'll help you.
I think the irrigation guys, I mean, that might be a little high, but I don't know where the lines are exactly and how much he has to do to move them. But I'm thinking the excavating is a little on the high side myself.
Well, I think that includes bringing that red dirt in.
Well, we got
That
the red dirt.
is expensive.
The red dirt, I thought we bought some extra for it. There might be some sub-base and stuff that's gotta go into. You can't just cut the sod out. You gotta go down a foot.
Right,
and a
you gotta
half.
take it down and you gotta bring.
Right. And knowing West Branch should be bad soil down there.
It's not,
So,
I don't know if these fields got tiled. Did they get tiled?
yeah, they're tiled.
They did get tiled, and the depth and to the measurements that they were engineered to.
So,
wow.
So extending these baselines, are we gonna have to extend the tiling too? Is that part of this?
It's all included there. It should be okay. But,
You and I.
yeah.
I think the tile runs all the way through the field, so I mean, you're just messing with the top, you're not messing with it.
Tile should be down there 18 inches or so.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was in just the infield or it's in the whole field.
I think it goes through all of it.
I don't remember seeing them put tile.
Okay, we got a consensus to do at least 2 fields, but we're gonna keep
If they're to inspect it,
reserve for 3 if we have to.
that's sarcasm.
Okay, item 12, Town Hall. Sounds like some people want to use it. So I think staff is recommending that if they want to use it, we can. We just need to charge them a cleaning fee, a COVID cleaning fee. Anybody else have a comment? How much would that cleaning fee be?
$10 a half hour is what we pay our cleaning person. So we would say the equivalent of that period of time, we think it could be done in half hour.
So $20 an hour, $10 a half, $20 an hour.
$10 half hour, $20 an hour. That's what we pay.
Doesn't seem like a lot. Whole lot.
I'll do it for that.
We got a
We'll
consensus.
take you up on that.
Anybody against that idea? Okay, let's open it up to anybody who wants to pay that cleaning fee.
Okay.
We'll let you and.
That includes nonprofit.
What about nonprofits? Even
That
nonprofits?
includes nonprofit.
Yeah.
Anybody.
So,
What if they say they'll do it themselves?
Nope, it'd be done to our specs.
Good job. Yep, I agree. Decided.
Now, the biggest reason it's brought up is because of the dance. they're already paying to rent this, right? Does that include, renting it include the cleaning?
Not
Fee
COVID
to-
cleaning, no. I believe in a part of our normal renting fee, yes, but I don't think that would include the disinfectant and all that other stuff.
So it could be adjusted slightly. If they're paying for a cleaning fee now,
Yeah, I don't see,
I mean,
what are they?
if they're
what,
paying
that's what they're
$10
paying?
now, why should we charge them another 20?
Because we're using disinfectant. COVID disinfectant that costs us money.
And it's hard to come by. If you try to buy Lysol lately, you would know.
I don't know, I was just in Lowe's today and they had a whole display of all kinds of
bought it.
disinfectant.
I bought
All
some.
kinds of stuff. So
All the
I
end
can't
caps
say
are
it.
full of
Everywhere I've
disinfectant.
seen it, it's quite plentiful.
Okay, Melissa, sounds like we want to open it up.
I'm great with that. I'll go ahead and send out just the reminder and send out to all groups that we're opening it up and that we're going to charge a $10 fee for even the nonprofits.
$10 per hour, or
A half hour.
what's that? Half hour. $10 per half hour.
Half hour.
I don't know
Okay.
if half an hour is enough time.
I hope it's enough time. We're estimating it to be enough time.
I wasn't involved in this part of it. Melissa was working with Megan on it.
Is there a way we can shut the kitchen off so they can't use the kitchen so that doesn't have to be disinfected? I mean, we don't have to disinfect the whole place if they're only using the hall and maybe the bathroom. That's
There's a
every
roll-up
group.
door anymore?
Should be a
There's
door
a
out.
door to the kitchen and used to be a roll-up door. I don't know if it's still
No, I
there.
don't know about
I
that.
think they got rid of that about
Open area, yeah.
It's gone?
10 or 15 years
Boy
ago.
Scouts probably killed it.
Yeah, they tore it off and used it as a sled.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys can figure that out. Get it, close off the kitchen if you want it. I think that's what we want to do. Open it up. Merit pay proposal. Let's talk about that a minute.
Want me to start?
Please, somebody
Well,
explain this to me. 'cause
we-
It's kind of confusing to me.
All right, well, the history behind this is my first go around on the council. They just walk in every year and we're gonna give a 3 or 4% raise to everyone. And everyone would get a 3 or 4% raise. Well, I got to looking, I said, well, geez, we got a guy making $50,000 and he's getting a 5% raise. He's getting $2,500. And the guy down at 15,000 is getting a $750 raise. And I went back and I've always worked on a merit system where you have a job and it's put in at a level and you progress through the levels as you become more and more proficient at your job. And I came up with this merit raise wage scale, and these are just numbers I put in there. But basically, I came up with a formula that keeps the lowest guy all the way to the top at a 40% difference, so you don't get that wage gap. And that's what this is. And we just went through and did the levels and plugged certain jobs into these levels, from level 1 all the way to level 5. But basically, I don't think it's fair if you bring a guy in making $40,000 a year and he becomes more proficient in his job, gaining skills, and is an increased value for your employer. The only thing you're doing is giving them a cost of living raise every year. Last year, what was it, 1.9%? I don't think that's a very equitable way to reward your employees for taking on new tasks and becoming proficient. But basically, if you look at the spreadsheet, like level 1 would be a seasonal worker who's yearly, at $12.50 an hour, that would be $26,000 a year. if you work 52 weeks. And basically, the way I've got it structured, the way I envision it would work, that after 2 years, as he became more proficient, he would bump up to level 2 and go to level 3 after 4 years, level 4, level 5, and level 6. And at the end of 12 years, you would be at the end of your merit raise and be at the mercy of the cost of living raises. So basically, this is what I have.
Now, you put, say, level 5 and level 4 positions in, I think probably based on what their current salary is.
Well, based on the responsibilities they have right now. And those are negotiable. I just put this down as a working model as to what it might look like.
So I love the concept of the 40%, not straying from that 40%. I really like that concept. Otherwise, it just keeps growing.
Like I was saying, the guy that was making 50,000 went to 52.5, and the guy that's making 15,000 went to 15,750. And that went on for like 2 or 3 years. And we went to this model my first go around, and I don't know where it went or why we went away from it, but we had this as a model at one time.
I do disagree a little bit with the head librarian being at level 4 and the building inspector at level 5. I would switch those around.
What now?
The head librarian, he's in charge of 4 others. And the building inspector just working for himself.
He's a part-time person.
The head librarian?
No, the building
Yeah,
inspector. Yeah. He's an hourly rate.
His hourly rate fell within the.
Yeah, I got it. The total for the year. Yeah. Is this something what would this take Leslie or Redmond to implement? What would it take to activate something like this? What's it gonna take?
Well, I have a couple questions. So where it says your top performer would get a 6% increase, your average performer gets a 4% increase, bottom performers get a 2% increase. Now that's something that's set.
No, that's not my stuff.
Yeah, that's
Redmond's.
That's my stuff. That's a different approach. I wanted to let Tom talk to his first.
Okay, back up to Tom's. Everyone starts out at a level, 1 through 5, correct?
Right.
But if they move up on the 1 through 6, that's by way of a manager review or recommendation?
Well, yeah, if your performance reviews are good performance reviews and your supervisor says, go ahead and give them a merit increase, then they'd move up a grade.
What about longevity? Say every 3 years you automatically move up or anything like that? Okay.
Based on productivity and efficiency.
Yeah. This is basically how most cities do it.
That's where I got it.
Yep.
That's your government, that's your GS system right there.
So it entices the employee to work harder, be more efficient to get to that next pay scale.
Yes.
There's no COLA involved with this, or?
Yeah, there'd be a COLA involved with
But
it.
it's independent of the review, the uptick in level or step.
So the person could actually go improve his level in a year, or is it on the average of 2 years? Or?
I was going 2 years, and that's where every merit system I've been in has been 2 years.
Well, and you could even, like, if you were hired in as a maintenance worker and say our lead water operator takes a job somewhere else and one of those maintenance workers jumps up, he can jump a whole tier.
Right. You could get a $12,000 or $15,000 pay
Yeah.
raise.
How again?
Well, if he had got the qualifications and he took over that job pay scale, whatever that job pay scale started at, that's where he would jump
Okay.
to. And
Roger, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
We do have some things in our handbook that provide for water operators and sewer operators to get increases when they pass tests.
That's right.
I think we need to be aware that we don't want to change that.
Well, what do you do if you have operators that haven't taken the test yet?
They are required after so long to take the test. That's, if they don't take the test, if that's part of their condition of employment, that these people need to take the test. We
Don't
had a
know where
little
that-
issue recently because the COVID situation canceled
You
tests.
can't pull the COVID thing on that whole thing, because he had a year before the COVID even came about to get that done. So don't even pull that card.
Well, except that lots of your conditions for those tests are, you have to have a year's worth of experience before you can even take the test. So the first year, you've got to gain your experience.
I don't know where that 50 cent an hour increase fits into the schedule, however. How does that? I don't know how that fits in.
Well, we have the 3 people now who have to take their, I guess, there are 3 tests, a sewer, a water, and a water distribution, I think.
Yeah.
And Matt and I discussed it, and he said, put in $1.50 for each person as the incentive for these people this year.
Wouldn't it be just easier to bump them up a grade?
You can't do that because they won't have the urine.
But I mean, if they meet the criteria. I don't want to get into specifics on this. I'm just giving you an example.
This is the first we're
of-
seeing it, so this is a good first step, I think.
I'm just giving you a working model as to how this would work. I plugged people in where I thought they fit. These levels are certainly negotiable up or down. I just want you to look at it and consider it.
I think the easiest way to handle that situation is when you hire them, they're starting off at a level 2, class 1 or whatever. Once they get all 3 of their things, they automatically go to 2. There's your automatic
Yeah.
incentive right there.
Yeah, move up a step.
Yeah.
So we might have to, in lieu of that $1.50 an hour, we might have to move up a step. I don't know if that,
Move up a grade.
a grade, I don't know if that pans out to be the same, or, but it could be, fine, it could be tweaked to equal a
Right,
$1.50 an hour.
right.
Okay, it's a good start. So Redmond,
And then the next year, do you start at the 2 or do you go back to the 1?
you
So
never go
if
back.
you're a great performer one year and
Never
you're
go
hits the
back,
next
you
year.
get more and more proficient.
Okay, so that's one of the
You'd be a level 3 grade
Challenges.
6, or a level 3 grade 5, or level 3 grade 4.
So a level 3, grade 6, that's
That's all you
as high
know.
level 3 can go. So
Yeah.
from there, if he wants that person, he or she,
If
how do they advance? I'm just,
They don't.
They don't.
They don't. You get
That's
paid
your
your
job
COLA, and that's all
description.
you get for your
Okay.
increase.
Okay.
Once you reach your level 6, that's as high as the pay scale gets. and
apply for the,
eventually become proficient at your job.
you're already taking.
so level 6 could take 12 years if you're starting out at level 1, if it's every 2 years, unless you pass the tests. Correct?
You know, and there could be
Let's
some,
don't talk about specifics
Okay,
on it.
all right, I'm just trying to figure it
you
out.
could be somebody that starts out at level 2 and you are at a grade 2 and you don't want to ever be any more efficient than what you are. You're going to stay at grade 2. You're never
COLA
going to
every year.
every year you're going to get your COLA, and that's all you're going to get.
You know, if we hire, if one of the waste operators or water operators leave, we hire his replacement, he's not certified, he comes in at level 2. And once he gets his certification, we'll bump him up to level 3.
Okay. So I just covered the other two models that I was able to find. And I think this is something that we have talked about last year, about having like a base COLA and then having a percentage of dollars to assign directors to work their merits through that number. And we could set that number based on top performers, average performers, or bottom performers. All of them would get COLAs, but then the merits could be adjusted based on however we wanted to set that up. So that's the base merit. Variable merit pay is interesting because some researchers have said that you'll have performers that are not necessarily always great performers. They may have down or low moments, and to create incentives to keep that performance going at a certain level, you want to have a variable moment so they don't just get relaxed.
They're too subjective.
Based on previous year performances. So that basically takes a lot of different formats, but it basically is an annual. You get the same type of mix that the merit model has, but this goes from an annual consideration. So year 2, if you're not performing as a top performer, say you're an average performer, well, you don't have that 6% bump that you had from last year that just will soak into your base salary.
That's a pretty good, if you're a top performer, if you have 30 top performers, they're all getting a 6% increase every year, you're gonna have wage runaway.
Well, so if you have that many top performers, then I guess the argument could be made that your organization
Yeah,
is
it's all
running off
subjective. No, if you have a
a
supervisor
top,
that doesn't want to.
you have a Super Bowl team, then you're going to the championship every year. But that's not likely. You're likely going to have a mix. And you want to create some type of incentive to keep that top performer, keep on producing at that.
Okay, all those parameters would require within themselves parameters that have to be met to be an average performer. I mean, it's or without it being, otherwise, yeah, it is subjective.
You're going to keep up on all this.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So, I mean, just talking through subjective, because it sounds like no matter what you do, a merit system is going to have subjective pieces to it.
I have to do the performance reviews every year.
Well, you have to do that.
You have to, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
How are you going to get an increase if you don't?
Yeah. So, I mean, those are, I think the article I threw in there was kind of talks about the pluses and minuses and things to keep an eye out for. I guess the appeal with some type of variable system is a constant injection of trying to provide that incentive for employees to achieve higher levels and keeping them fresh, staying on top of your game, you would say.
One of the things about this is you have 30 top or if you have 30 top performers and 20 bottom performers, you're going to get a 6% increase and a 2% increase, and you're going to get that wage gap. Pretty soon you're going to have someone making $100,000, and you're going to have someone that cuts along at 2%, making $40,000.
But theoretically, you're gonna have a gap if you got a person that's just happy with being a bottom performer and never trying to attain more. There's always going to be a gap that's gonna grow. Versus a go-getter that's always pushing and always looking to get better.
Meanwhile, the taxpayer's writing a check.
Well, I want to attribute, because I think there's also things with the variable pay that opens up innovation. So if there is something that an employee is doing that actually saves the city money or actually improves the service that it creates a revenue for the city, that is actually growing the organization, growing the revenue base, making it better. And if you got employees constantly looking at that and you share some of those fruits of those labors, that can happen in a variable system.
I think that could happen in Tom's system also. He would get a favorable review and move up a step. Can he manager bump him up 2 steps with a favorable review? I don't know if he saves the city $40,000. It's also
Yeah. Okay. So he saves the city $40,000 that year. Next year, it costs the city $60,000. He's still riding high off the savings that he did for the $40,000 the year before. But you can't go backwards.
We could have scenarios all night long. We don't need to get into
I'm just
different scenarios.
just saying that's the benefit for the variable system.
I like Tom's system because it's
It's
all
okay.
spelled out. There it is on one
I'm
sheet.
just giving options. I'm not saying one way or the other.
That's fine. It's just so visible. Okay, what's our next step here?
So if I'm hearing you guys like more of that, we could try and flesh out the Tom system some more. I can't say that I have a total handle on it, so I'll have to visit more of time. It sounds like more of a federal government thing because I haven't seen it.
Can you explain it to me more in depth sometime?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you're just talking, probably tweaking some of the numbers around and making it fit what we already have, because pretty much.
Again, I
I'm
just plug these people in here and
Right, he just threw this together.
Yeah.
I mean, I think him and Redmond need to sit down and go over it, and the mayor need to sit down and go over it and put real numbers in it.
And how people progress through it.
Right.
That's
Right.
That would be the big thing, would be sitting down with your directors and figuring out, this is my expectations from a 1 tier. This is what you need to do to become a 2 tier, set those benchmarks along the way. I mean, those aren't things we do. Those are things the directors need to do.
Does the director then, they have a budget. Director may have his own budget. Is the director then in charge of that payroll budget?
Under the present system, there's not really a budget for the supervisor to address, because it's all done at the annual budget time, and the supervisors are unable to do anything with a person who is not performing. And by the same token, they can't do anything with a person who is exceeding performance standards. That's under the present system. And that's one of the issues we have now.
I mean, in my opinion, everything should be done annually anyway. So then you can reflect those things at budget time. But that's going to be the challenging part of a merit system, no matter how we do it, is it's not going to be as cut and dry on what that's going to do with our general fund, with our payroll, because it's not going to be just a solid 2.5%, you know.
Well,
It
the
could-
COLA will be, but
Prac-
Matt, for instance, he's got 4 guys. He can't, can he give everybody a step up? Knowing that,
You would have
Every
to,
2 years.
you would have to actually, from a budgeting
Do we give him a
standpoint,
budget?
you would have to go from the highest potential.
do we give him a budget and say, this is what you got to work with?
It would have
for
to
the
be at
next-
the highest potential. That's how you would have to budget at the highest potential, knowing that you would likely not have all your employees.
Well, and if you do it as an every 2-year type of deal, then I suppose you could stagger them to where half of them are 1 year and half of them are the other year.
That would keep it consistent throughout. maybe.
We got a $6 million budget and we can't come up with an extra couple $1,000 for employee wages every year. I can't fathom that would be that big of a nightmare to budget in.
It's a pretty big chunk. It's more than a couple thousand.
Well, if your 2 lead wastewater guys making $41,000 go to grade 2, it'd be a $1,100 a year raise for the 2 of them. That's $2,200.
But Tom, our total payroll of that $6 million budget, our total payroll is like 20% of it. I mean, you know, it's considerable.
Our payroll is over $1 million, and if you go 2%, there's $20,000 increase.
Well, I'm just saying, you do not stimulate your employees to get better. You know, I'm gonna be really blunt about it because we get people coming to the council asking for raises. You know, this eliminates it. You know, if you meet the parameters of a raise within that time frame, you go up a grade. I cannot see how that would be that hard to budget.
Well, like I said, we'll have to
Let's,
put the nuts and screws on it a little bit more. I don't fully understand, but that's what we'll have to talk through, how to implement. What would the directors have to do and look at to bring employees? Would employees come automatically in at 1 and work from there? Or do we have some employees already skilled that are going to come in at a 3? I mean,
we could start the whole system at whatever their salary is now, I suppose.
Yeah, but what he's saying is what level do they come in at? You got some that are gonna come in at 1 or 2 and some that are coming in. Of course, all your directors are probably gonna come in at 5.
Well, I think that's kind of where we just set that, you know, if we want you to hire a new maintenance worker, we want you to hire a level 2 or a level 1, you know, that's what's in your budget.
Okay, we got a little work to do.
Sure.
Still, we got to keep on it though. We can't. we gotta
So
keep on
I'm
it.
hearing we want to explore this model.
I think so.
Do we want to implement this year? It's kind of, this is budget time.
Yeah, well, we've had since April. I turned this in April, so.
I don't know.
You're not talking this year. You're
I'm
talking next
thinking
fiscal
July
year.
1st maybe.
Yeah, right.
But we set the budget, we set the salaries through July 22. We're going to set those before July 1st. In March, we're going to set them.
Right.
The next couple of months.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, we're going to move on. Hometown Days 2021, this coming summer. Does anybody have any thoughts? I'm kind of hoping we could make it happen.
We're down. By then, we're gonna have, everybody's gonna be vaccinated and
Sterile.
Sterile. That's what the vaccine does? What's our issue here?
What's the other option here? I mean, we either,
Whether you want us to cancel it now?
No, we're not gonna cancel anything. I guess
So-
Melissa needs to know, or whoever we're gonna run this, I'm going through the meetings, I will be.
So, yeah,
What we're
so
gonna plan.
typically, we would start the whole fireworks contract. We'll start doing that stuff now.
Yeah.
Start getting performers in line and all those early planning things. And so, should we go about it as we would normally do, or are we looking at having a scaled down version now that might exclude some of those typical activities?
are we gonna believe what our government's telling us, or are we not believing them? Because that's really what the question is, because they're telling us that by July, everybody's gonna have access to vaccine. So hometown days starts in
Who told
August.
you that? What I've been reading is 3 years. It's 3 years before everybody's vaccinated.
Our fire department's gonna get them tomorrow.
Well, yeah. I'm not gonna say
I'm
that.
not gonna, I don't know when I'll get mine, I don't know. I'm a nobody.
I don't know, a lot of
That's what they've
government
been saying.
officials.
I was gonna say, we're city government, we may get them.
Well,
sooner
that
than
doesn't
most.
count.
Only the big
Your people.
Don't want to make.
I think we need to plan, we just need to move forward as if it's gonna happen for a while. We did that last year too. We moved forward January, February, March, and March came along, we kind of had to rethink it. I don't know when we actually canceled it.
June, yeah.
Was that late?
Yeah.
So all the vendors were fine with it. We had them all ready to go till June. I don't know why we can't do that one more time. And I think we need to keep planning for it.
I agree.
Okay,
I do too.
but we may just go ahead and enter into
Yeah.
contracts with.
Let's
you
get
know,
a hold of Z and
Yeah.
the firework guy, and he's one of the first
Okay.
ones we nailed down, and
You can put a force majeure clause in
Yep.
it somehow.
yeah, a COVID clause. Not the Santa Claus. Okay. Casey's parking lot. God, is this thing ever gonna go?
So, in our goal setting process, didn't have that one on the list to see how it would fare. But as you know, we got our mural and it was intended to go there. And I think at one time council was like, hey, we'll have to repair the sidewalks and we'll just do it. And then we got a parking lot that probably needs to be some kind of surface that is uniform.
Is it ours yet?
Yes.
Oh.
I'm okay with this. If we can do it in-house.
Do we have a cost affiliated to this?
Probably 20 grand.
Is Matt still there? Matt, I know we had I had to put you on the spot, but you had some thoughts on what this might cost us?
I think it was in the 20,000 range to do the parking lot. Yeah. It might have been 25. I had it figured up. I could get that for you. I don't exactly remember.
Is this all concrete? Is this asphalt?
That would be concrete.
In-house is probably cheaper than doing asphalt, which would have to come from out of house.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, every other project I've ever figured up that had asphalt on it, it was cheaper for us to do the concrete in-house.
Yeah.
So this gains us 18 parking stalls downtown.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, I guess this plan had 10.
We got the parking there now.
Oh.
Just
Yeah.
not very formal.
I don't know if you noticed when he plowed the snow, he took half of the asphalt millings and pushed them up on the other end, so.
Because they weren't packed very well.
Well, all millings and unpacked, sorry.
I don't know, I'm on the fence on this. I'd like to see it done. I'm just,
It's an eyesore for our downtown, I can
Yeah,
say
but
that.
what would the purpose of it be for?
Is it not able to be parked on right now? I mean, Hosier's
People
are
parking
parking
on all
on
the time.
yeah,
daily.
it can be parked on.
Get, you know, when there was viable businesses down there at that end of town that brought in people, I could see putting a parking lot in there, but we're gonna put a parking lot in front of 2 vacant buildings.
So if you don't like that idea, I mean, you could turn it into a green space too and repair the sidewalks and do the parking in front of the sidewalk. Just another idea. I don't know.
Do we have to repair the sidewalk anyway in a couple spots?
Yes.
We do.
They don't meet all their own codes, so
That'd be done separately before any concrete gets put in. And could we put the grass, say, to the north side of this schematic here? So we could plant the mural. That could be done.
yeah.
Is the mural really happening?
Yeah, I think it's done.
We already, I mean, it's at our shop.
It's been at the shop for since like July.
I wouldn't be opposed to getting that grass at the north end done, regardless of, without concrete. Maybe you need curb though there.
The idea when that mural went up was that I'd put some kind of island, a concrete island that it would sit on just so somebody didn't run into it or
Yeah.
something like that. 'Cause it's big. I mean, it's 8 by 16. So it's going to cover a pretty good chunk of the property there.
We have Matt fix the sidewalk along Main Street.
Yes,
Put the grass on the north end of this end
yes,
and the mural. Just kind of call it quits at that point.
yes.
And leave it as a parking.
Yeah, free for all
Whatever.
parking. With
So the only problem with leaving it just how it is too, I mean, you can do what you want, but me looking at it, I'd say you need to go one way or the other. I mean, you could seal coat it and do your grass in some area, or do the concrete parking lot, or do like a green space. But if you leave it how it is, I think you open yourself up for somebody tripping on it. And we've had people slip on stuff downtown that we ended up paying for glasses and people to go to the doctors when they slipped on beads when we were putting down paint. I mean, that'd be your parking lot that, I mean, obviously if you go walk on it, it's not flat. It's not nice.
I know, we can put a splash pond in there.
Shame on you.
okay.
Why wouldn't you put the mural up against the building on the east side of the parking lot?
I think that's where it's at.
No, we planted on the north side to hide that,
Roundhouse.
kind of hide that house a little.
You mean the north side?
North side of this little parking lot.
This side here.
Yeah.
This is where we originally had it. There's a house here and we wanted to construct some view.
Can we make the property owner of the old restaurant pay for part of this because he doesn't have enough parking anyway?
I thought about that too.
And I think there was a window or something over here on this side.
Yeah, there's a-
Yeah,
I think that was also a reason.
All
I think I just wanted
Anybody
to
got any
know-
suggestions?
It sounds like we want to do something.
We gotta fix the sidewalk. We need to fix the sidewalk, period.
Certainly.
On Main Street. There is no sidewalk on First Street, Second Street.
I mean, I guess if we're putting the mural down there and that, the whole idea of that is to bring people to town, I guess we are gonna want this to kind of look nice. I mean, but without a mural, I would see no reason why we'd want to do anything over here.
John Fowler approached me last summer and wondered if there'd be any interest of putting a electric car refueling station down there.
What?
Electric car refueling station.
I'd rather have that going over here at the old bank corner,
Yeah,
or the old library corner.
we tried that, but it wasn't gonna be cheap for the.
Wasn't gonna be
That's
cheap.
what your thought was?
Yeah, I'd still like that location. Don't remember what the cost was.
$30,000.
Actually, it was more than
So
that.
someone
like-
else wants to put one in?
It's
John
32,000.
Fowler from Planning and Zoning with that grant said, well, what's your thoughts on putting it down there in the case
It
of
wasn't
park?
a
There's a
full
tree.
grant. We had to come up with some money to do it.
There may not be a transformer nearby. If there's no transformer, then
Okay, so I'll add this as a moderate.
No matter what, it needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, we'll figure out what that is.
Or
it
Main
fix the
Street.
sidewalk.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, item 16. Considering a request from Gordon Edgar for special consideration for a pay increase of $5,000.
Well, this is not really a request for a pay increase. It's a request to reduce my hours of work for the first quarter to 32 hours a week. At the same pay now.
What's not gonna get done? What's?
Well, we'll have to
get done?
we'll see what needs to get done. Well, we'll see what doesn't get done. But I can't continue working the hours. And this will give me some rest. And we'll see how it goes.
We had this meeting. We had this talk.
When Ben was here
Sure, like,
a year ago?
no, we just had it 2 weeks ago. Gordon was in here working on a Saturday morning during Christmas past. We're
You and I
wondering-
chatted, yeah.
We're wondering why he's in here working as many hours as he is.
Why are you working so many hours as you do?
Well, there are things that just don't get done. There are interruptions. There are things that happen that you don't plan for. For instance, we had a derecho that I had to spend time working up items for a claim for that. We had a COVID claim we had to submit that I never planned on, and that took time. There are things that occur that you don't expect, but they need to be addressed.
Not sure I like the idea of cutting down to 32 hours a week for a full-time pay. I mean, I know you're probably spending over 50 hours many weeks. But I don't know why, I don't know what I'm thinking. Why couldn't that be 40 hours a week?
I need a
Why
rest.
go down to 32?
I need a rest.
So, 2 years ago, or I believe it was 2 years ago, he came to us and asked for a $4,000 raise. And we gave it to you. So I guess in 2 years, I guess I'm asking, what extra have you taken on to deserve a $5,000 raise? That's a lot of money.
I don't think
anybody's asking
for a $5,000 raise.
Yeah, that would be $9,000 in 2 years. Increase in your salary.
Well, I think he's given up on the
I'm
5,000
not
raise
asking for
in
that.
lieu of less time.
Yeah, he just wants to work.
He just wants to work
Less
less. Don't we all?
Less than 40 hours?
Gordon, how many hours you averaging right now? Just a ballpark, I mean,
I would guess over 50.
over 50?
I can't take it any longer.
So what won't get done, if you only work 40, is Redmond gonna have to do something? Is there stuff he can do?
I'm sure
I'm not gonna
that,
ask Leslie to do anymore.
I'm sure that things might not get done that aren't necessarily terribly important, but we like to do them.
Well, I don't think that's acceptable.
Well, there are things I was doing on the safety committee that haven't been done for a while because I haven't had time. You have to have priorities on what is important, and I think I choose what needs to get done. We need to pay our bills, we need financial reports, I need to get the auditors their information. I need to submit claims, I need to do a number of things that I don't always plan on. Customers walk in. There are things that you don't plan on that need to be addressed. You have to answer the phone sometimes, talk to customers.
Gordon, I got another question. I know that I'm not in here a lot, but I've been in here quite a bit where Leslie's on vacation or Redmond's taking some time off, or before Redmond, he was here, Muckler was always on vacation. But I don't know if I've ever seen you on vacation, brother. You ever take any vacation time?
Not enough. I took 6 or 7 days last, I guess, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It'd be nice. But if you take vacation and no one
Stuff
does your
don't get
work,
done, and you just gotta work harder when you come back,
you
right?
just make up, yeah, you don't really accomplish anything.
That's with any job. I'm sorry, but
I don't know what to think.
Well,
well,
I tell you what, this guy's in his 70s right now, and he's working 50 hours a week.
That's
Doesn't
too
have
much.
to-
I mean, that,
Exactly, and he's asking for some time off. Now, whether that is giving him 32 hours a week of pay, and then finding somebody to come in and help in the whole office, which could be somebody taking the phone, helping him with his books or whatever, if that's what it's gonna take, I guess I see him, if I'm you, I'm looking at like, I've had it, I'm ready to go somewhere else.
that's my situation. That's my problem.
I think he's asking for us to help him with keeping him employed here, or virtually we're gonna let
Help
him
him with
go.
his time management a little bit by 40. I mean, if, at the very least, I would say, dude, you don't work no more than 40 hours. There's no ifs, no ands, no buts. You go home. You know? I mean, if right now you were supposed to work 40 hours a week and you work 50. So now if we tell you you're going to work 32, you're going to work 42. I mean, you know,
I would change my ways. I have, I'm at a point where I have.
I understand that. I understand that.
It's not like I'm trying to beat
I
anybody
want
out
you
of
to
No,
the.
change
I
your
get
ways.
you, man. I get
You
you.
should change your ways because you deserve it.
Yeah.
You're 72 years old.
I've got a point where I can't do
And
what I've been doing.
I just got a little bit of a problem at 32 hours, but being out for
I guess
40 hours.
the problem is his position requires a minimum of 40 hours to do your job. And Roger's point is you can't do that in 32 hours. So
Yeah. I mean,
Would you
So if
compromise
he's
at
the
40?
HR manager, why don't you take the HR manager and give it to somebody else and take that load off of him?
There is the situation, there are things that I do that are not done on a daily basis. We don't hire people every day. We don't do things that require HR every day. Occasionally they do, and you don't always choose when you have to contact somebody about insurance, about various tests, various things that you just have to do, not when you plan, but when they have to be done.
Is there anything Redmond can do to help out?
I guess Redmond and I can sit down and talk about those things. I can't say that there are things that I do that he's incapable of or anything like that.
I mean, we got a guy in the office there. We got another guy in the office here. Redmond. I don't know why, if you're struggling, then sometimes the manager has to pick up the slack. That's the way it is in the corporate world, I guess. That's the way I would go.
I don't have a problem with that.
And-
If you're curious.
So more, so you guys get, what do you guys get? You guys getting Christmas Eve off?
We'll get 2 days off this week.
Christmas
Thursday
Eve and
Friday.
Christmas Day?
Yeah.
And you get New Year's Day off too, right?
Yes.
You get New Year's Eve too, or no?
No, just New Year's Day. That's
So, brother, why don't you take 4 days vacation and you almost have 2 weeks off? Just reset yourself. Get home, relax, chill. Because you know it's gonna be budget time here for too long anyway. And when you come back, you're forbidden to work over 40 hours a week. Forbidden. And let's see if we can get some pressure off of you and give that a try.
Heavy sigh.
I will see what I.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
But,
I guess.
and if you know, I can't force you to take vacation, but I think that might be good for you. I think you burned out a little bit, brother.
Well, Redmond and I can talk about what maybe he can
Right.
take over. That will help. Like I said, I thought maybe even 32 hours a week for a quarter would be a good thing for me.
If work could get done, I really wouldn't have a problem with it, because he's been putting in 50 hours.
Right.
He's been working 10 hours over. Why not 8 hours less, everyone? I mean, as long as the bills get paid and
Well, this is kind of a busy time too with budget. That's, and budgets sometimes have to be recalculated after you get them entered once. We haven't got our valuations yet.
And then we do our 2x2 meetings on Tuesday nights, and he's got to be here for that. And
okay, I guess,
hey, is there any way we can make it where you don't come to these no more? Would that help?
I guess,
I passed council, I never saw the finance person.
well, I think sometimes there are questions that come up
You're right, there is.
and
they can be answered the next day. I mean, often they could be. I mean, tonight even. I can't think of anything.
Don't mean we don't like seeing your face. I mean, it's just, you know, these are extra hours that you shouldn't really have to put in.
well, I guess a few hours would certainly not hurt anything, not being here, but if there are questions that come up and they don't get answered,
That's what the manager's here for.
That's right. I mean,
That's what your
what
manager's here for.
Redmond's job is.
Okay. Is that a compromise?
well, I guess I can work 40 hours and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, give it another, take a few days off. I don't do a vacation.
Well, that's kind of the issue, what has to get done. We have claims to pay, we have,
You're too conscientious. I shouldn't say that. You're really conscientious. I know you like to do things right.
When you're on vacation, that ain't your problem.
well, like I say, the issue becomes, you have to do the things that didn't get done when you're on vacation, and as well as what normally comes up.
Okay. All right, thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, Gordon.
Okay, that wraps that up. City Administrator.
All right, I'm going to be as short as I possibly can. I think we talked about the planning design loan that's in for the SRF. Our budget coming up, I have the budget timeline. So normally we would have done it in a resolution, but with the max levy new piece to it, Ted Nelson, our state budget guy, says he doesn't really want to see a formalized timeline because it may insinuate that decisions are already made before they are. So, and with the max levy being a particularly new legislation, that legislators didn't want people to think that, you know, they're not getting their taxes raised or whatever. So instead of doing that, I'm going to put it together and give it to you in my manager's report. So you have it. And just in case you don't keep up with this piece of paper, it's always online under my administrative report. So you can go back and look at this. So pretty much very close to last year. Obviously, we're going to have to spend some time on our merit system. So there's several meetings in there on our merit system before we get to approving our salary plan. So you'll be able to see that. We'll still have our department head presentations. They'll start off next in January. Gordon's right, we haven't got our assessed values yet, and we're told we may not see them, or we're not fully until the first of the year. So they tend to come in around now. Sometimes they're a little earlier, sometimes they're a little later. That's really kind of the assessment for us to get our grasp on what our revenues look like. That really gives us what room we'll be able to do to address those group of projects that we talked about, the small P and the large P allocations for the coming fiscal year. So those are important, but we can still get the basics down on our department updates and their goals and stuff like that. So I think that's the gist of it. Of course, we got the max levy, and that's always kind of fishy on making sure that we get the public notice in. And so you might notice that they were going to actually advertise in the paper or start the process in the paper, since it's a weekly paper, before our meeting, so that we don't miss our timeline like we kind of ran into that last year. So I accounted for those. I think we're pretty set on that, and then also left a lot of room for special meetings or special workshops or whatever we have to call it to make sure you guys get paid special meetings. And then also our 2-on-2s or 1-on-1s or whatever. So pretty much allow that to be available. I know one year we used a lot of them because we were dealing with some financial challenges that required increase in levy. I don't know if we're going to have that issue, although COVID is a big question and don't really know exactly how that's affecting our citizens and their rate of paying their taxes and all that's going to be different, likely.
Didn't know that was a choice.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on when they pay it and
delay paying your property taxes.
Well, they might not be able to pay for them, and they just do a penalty. Pay for them later.
Yeah, that could affect our revenues.
Yeah.
So the other issue we wanted to get the council's direction on is, I know we had talked about Greenview Connection. Kind of been in a couple of different spots on that. I wanted to drill down a bit on it and re-clarify. Do we want to go after option 1, which is the lower cost option, or option 2, which is a higher end option? This is going to help me put together our capital improvement and lay out our strategy on that. So
I thought we decided on option 1.
Yeah, I thought we did
Thought it
too.
was kind of an in-between 1 and 2, didn't it? Could we decide to go through
No,
but not extend the driveways?
I thought it was option one. Nobody gets a new driveway.
Yeah.
Damn.
Colton, option one sounds good.
Truthfully, no, I really would prefer option two. I mean, this is the stuff that just doesn't make sense. We want to penny pinch this, but then we want to go pour a driveway in front of, go pour a parking lot in front of two empty buildings. I mean, you know.
We can extend this later if we want. Option one, if we did option one now, couldn't we extend it later if we
This all,
really want to?
what surface are we talking on both of these?
I don't know either.
We talked about concrete before, but I think there's some thought that having asphalt as a transition.
We were gonna do curb and gutter, I thought. No, need on both either option. Curb and gutter with a storm drain.
Somebody's getting a driveway out of this option one.
All of it. Option one?
Yeah.
Oh, the sidewalk goes up. The sidewalk extends.
Nobody's getting a driveway.
Yeah, no one's gonna driveway though.
Wasn't that what this bid for?
Pardon?
He's looking at the detail.
Oh, what are you looking at?
Oh, no, it's for the 20, okay, it's for the 239,000. Never mind.
Okay. Let's see what Nick said. What do you say? If this can be done in-house within the existing budget works, I would be okay with it.
Okay, so I'm reading this as if we do option two, 31-foot street, 7-inch concrete. If we do the option one, 24-foot seal coated street. Which is what all of Greenview is, seal coat.
Seal Coat Street, yeah. I thought that was gonna be a curb and gutter though. Regardless, not a 5-foot ditch.
Couldn't it be graded so that it works its way down to the storm sewer down on?
Yeah, Dave's saying it's too far. You gotta have a catch basin up high. That's what Dave said last time.
So the
Still needs a catch basin kind of at the corner of my lot.
either way, either one,
Yeah.
either one. Do we have any idea how we can pay for any of this? Seems to be the biggest question we have all the time.
Not yet. Well, option one, yes. Option two, not yet.
Option two has to go out for bids. Option one we could do in-house.
Right.
I'd just rather spend my money somewhere else than spend it here on option two.
I just want a connection.
And we need it done by the middle of the summer because the Hoover Highway interchange they may want to close that down.
And there's a
Hoover Highway, Cedar
there's a
Johnson.
developer that needs,
We could close that
there's a
down.
developer that needs that done so that he can finish the street.
That's the other reason.
Well, and with all the money that we'd save from doing option one, we could fix up some alleys.
True.
We could do 3 ballparks.
I'm serious. Option one, that's a lot of reasons to do option one.
What was Nick's thoughts? I didn't hear.
He didn't write on this.
Oh, he
It's
didn't
not
write
on
because
the-
it was in the manager's report. Okay. Okay, I'm kind of.
I say let's start with option one and we'll work it and that'll be in our
Okay,
goals for next year.
that's fair.
Already a goal. It's top priority.
For 23.
phase one to be
Extending the
done.
Greenview connection?
Greenview Connection
Yeah,
has
get me a
been,
new driveway.
Greenview Connection has been in our goals for at least 5 years.
More than that.
More than that.
Been my goal for 20. 22.
Okay, is that it for you, Redmond? Nothing from you? Wow.
I don't think we need to do anything.
Staff, Melissa, Matt, Leslie?
I don't have anything.
Nope.
One thing,
Gordon does.
okay, one thing I need to bring to your attention is on the College Street Bridge project, we completed the audit, we paid off Taylor Construction. There was an error in a sheet. We had to pay them correctly what we owed them. During the audit, it became known that there was a problem with the test that B&K was told had been performed, but was not performed. So there was a $5,000 penalty assessed. And I told B&K that I don't think we should pursue trying to collect it from them because they had a lot of time spent on the audit that they were not reimbursed for. I said I'd leave it up to the council. Dave and I had discussed it. But
Yeah, I know V&K, they were hand feeding documents into the scanner for the DOT. I know they spent a lot of time. I know.
yeah, they spent a lot of unbudgeted.
You could have billed us
time.
for it.
So I said I'd bring it up, and if I was told to pursue it with V&K, I would. Otherwise, just forget it.
So the state wanted $5,000 back.
It was deducted from our reimbursement because of something B&K failed to provide.
That was my question. Who was supposed to do the test? B&K?
Well, B&K was told by their vendor, I think of American, someone who did some concrete work was supposed to have a darn crazy examination done of the machine. Not just one time was supposed to be checked, but all the times on this machine. Anyway, they said it was kind of a deal where they're going to find something in their audit, whether you do or not. So that was the thing they found.
Well,
It's not that we have to pay this, it's just we didn't get reimbursed.
it's the last $80,000 or $70,000 that we
Yeah,
we have
everything's been
$5,000
filed.
less.
I think they owe us like,
The
the state
retainer.
owes us like 85,000 yet. But we would have to go to B&K to collect the 5,000. And I said I would like to forget it.
Have a heart-to-heart talk with Dave.
He can explain.
Roger, I can explain what this is
Sure.
about. Like, so DOT has their standard specifications for highway and bridge construction. They also have a whole series of instructional memorandums for inspection. And in one of these sections of the specifications, it references an instructional memorandum that references several others. And what it states in there is that at the beginning of the day, the paving contractor is supposed to monitor the equipment when the concrete is in place and they pull up to start running the paving machine. They have vibrators that are supposed to get the concrete consolidated and spread out evenly. And if they don't have an automatic monitoring device on the machine, then someone is supposed to crawl under there and test each one of those vibration tines independently and document all of the readings. All American gave a form that indicated they had monitored the device, but when DOT did the audit, they asked for the calibration of the automatic monitoring device. They indicated they didn't have that, so then they looked for each individual tine record. They didn't have that, so they said that's what they're going to do is give a deduct because there could be a quality concern for the concrete and they weren't going to pay full price, so they deduct $5,000. As Gordon mentioned, when you go through a DOT audit, there's never been an audit that's gone perfect. This is a pretty minor item and pretty small deduction. It's pretty typical on these sorts of things that they'll find things that as they go through this, what is essentially like their tax code. They're going to find something that they can write on the report in order to indicate that they did the audit and found something. So that's what it's about, is the record keeping on that. So the information that was provided by the concrete company for the certification on that didn't adequately cover what DOT thought should have been done.
Hard to blame V&K for that anyway.
Sounds like
Crying out loud.
Sounds like a Kevin job to go after the concrete contractor to get the $5,000 back.
Small claims.
Leave me out of that.
That was a small claim for it.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I didn't ask Nick. Nick, you have anything? Shimon?
Nope, I'm good.
Adjourn anyone?
Did we answer?
Oh, us.
What's going on with the building? The old water.
Yeah, the old jail. Where are we at on that?
So I was gonna ask the same question. I just read.
Is that the food pantry?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, it's in your.
It's in our report. So it says that they couldn't find anybody that wanted to do the work. So then they had their insurance adjuster come out and they asked them, their insurance adjuster said, I could find somebody to do it. And a couple weeks went by and the insurance adjuster said, I couldn't find anybody who wanted to do it.
Can I put a bid in on that?
So,
Sounds like Iowa DOT.
so,
Everybody has the same thing.
so now there's 2 more people that are supposed to come look at it and give bids sometime after the holidays.
So one came in already, and we did walk through, me and Matt walked through with him, and then supposedly there's another person, and who knows, it might be a mayor.
Is there a limit I can work?
Did I
for
answer
city?
the question right?
You did.
Yeah.
Not if you have an open bid
So
process.
is the building structurally sound right now?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
So,
Rick's
and I can explain that, that actually is an add-on, it's not actually a real building.
It's
So
holding
when
up the
you go
roof.
inside of it, there's a whole nother brick wall foundation.
But if somebody actually walks by, even on the street,
That wall's not gonna fall
and the brick's not gonna fall out on them,
But it looks like hell.
on them. It does look like.
it does look like hell, but
Okay. Anything else?
One last thing.
Yep.
West Branch Fire Department got approved to be a COVID vaccine immunization center. Sandy Hike and I are going to Tipton tomorrow to get the Moderna COVID shots to begin administering to the police department, hopefully, and the fire department tomorrow.
Good. Thank you.
Nice job.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
What?
Wednesday.
Wednesday
No,
during the
we're gonna
meeting.
get it tomorrow, but we're gonna administer it Wednesday and Saturday.
That only has to be on a freezer, right?
No, the Moderna is not as sensitive. Once it comes out of the freezer, you put it in the refrigerator and you have 7 days to use it.
You know there's leftover in each one of those little files? I'll be stopping by.
I got a 16 gauge needle for you. And it doesn't go in the arm.
6 out of the 5.
Does the nursing home had any yet?
I don't think so.
They were on the
Take it up
list.
Well, they're in on it.
Right, they were on the list.
Motion to adjourn, anyone?
Application I filled out.
Colton? Second, Jerry. All those in favor say aye.
No, I filled out the application.
Can I see what Nick sent?
Yep.
Because I can't say like, oh, Roger said, Nick said. 'cause
I didn't read a lot of it.
It doesn't matter, I just need to,
You have to-
can I get a picture of it?
Sure.